This is Natural Selection, Lesson 3.2, Activity 4. You should have already completed this reflection activity, so if you haven't done this yet, do that before you watch this video, and then watch the video. So, we have some key concepts now, and there are two of them. So mutations are changes to genes that can lead to changes to protein molecules, which can result in changes to traits. Also, mutations to genes can sometimes introduce new traits into a population. So it's important to note that mutations happen randomly and individuals can't choose to have a mutant trait. We talked about this before. You can't just choose what traits you want. So if you end up with a trait that your parents didn't have through mutation, it would be random and it would not be your choice. Another thing is that mutations can create traits that can be adaptive, non-adaptive, or neutral depending on the environment. So having a mutation doesn't necessarily mean you are more likely to survive or you have an adaptive trait. So they are random. So depending on the environment, it could end up being an adaptive trait or a non-adaptive trait, or it's neutral and it's not affected by the environment at all. And then again, a mutation that results in a new trait, if an environment changes, those traits could become adaptive or could become non-adaptive. So it just really depends on the scenario. And lastly, if the mutant trait is adaptive, it will become more common. And if it is non-adaptive, it will become less common. So we know adaptive traits make you more likely to survive. If you're more likely to survive, you're more likely to live longer. Not love longer, but live longer. Well, I guess you could love longer too. We really didn't clear that up in the last video, but whatever. So if you have an adaptive trait, you're more likely to survive. You're more likely to reproduce more. So therefore, that trait will be passed down to future generations and become more common. If it's non-adaptive, you're less likely to live longer, and so less likely to love longer, less likely to reproduce more, and so that trait will not get passed down to future generations and it will become less common. Make sure you press hand in when you're done with this activity.